Hello, I'm Chris Williams from Read Comics, They're Bad For You, the name of my YouTube channel. Or if you're watching this on BitChute, the name of my BitChute channel is Comic Freak. We're going to be talking about the director of Terminator Dark Fate today, and his opinion on, well, his fans. Okay, that's kind of charitable, more like the critics of Terminator Dark Fate. Terminator Dark Fate director drops F-bomb about sexist trolls is the name of the article we're going to be looking at. And he has some salty language for anyone who's critical of his movie. Even though we haven't seen it, we can see it's going to be a bad movie. And you see the star, that woman who's supposed to be a woman even though she looks like she's on male hormones. She's a feminine woman even though she doesn't look like it. We'll get to that part soon enough, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that the director Tim Miller is either blind or so much of an ideologue he might as well be blind. But let's get at it. Just like how Kyle Reese came to the past to protect Sarah Connor in the Terminator, Dina Ramos will be aided by a visitor from the future in Terminator Dark Fate, Mackenzie Davis Grace, who is a human-machine hybrid. Dark Fate director Tim Miller is confident that many folks will respond positively to Grace, but he wasn't afraid to drop a few F-bombs directed at people who dislike her for purely sexist reasons. But hey, Tim Miller, you know your human-machine hybrids? There's a name for them. They're cyborgs. Just like in the original Terminator movie, the Terminator was a cyborg. But apparently you think your audience is so stupid you need to make sure they know the difference between, well, Grace and the Terminator. So you're calling Mackenzie a human-machine hybrid, even though that is what a Terminator is. But enough about that. Let's get back to the article. When asked how he thinks Grace will be received at the Terminator Dark Fate panel at San Diego Comic-Con next week, Tim Miller answered with, "If you're at all enlightened, she'll play like gangbusters. If you're a closet misogynist, she'll scare the F out of you because she's tough and strong but very feminine. Bull hockey. We did not trade certain gender traits." Yeah, right, you didn't. "For others, she's just very strong, and that frightens some dudes. You can see online that responses to some of the early that's out there. There are trolls on the internet. I don't give a random F-bomb because all this guy can do is, well, resort to making names and calling out people who are just have legitimate reasons and criticisms for his movie, and finally resorts to just dropping F-bombs to hope to deflect from his own faults in what he has done. Tim Miller's response was also partially referring to backlash at a Terminator Dark Fate poster received earlier this year with Mackenzie Davis and her co-stars being called feminazis. It's one thing to see Dark Fate and walk out not liking Grace for characterization or plot issues, but for people out there who are already bashing her because she's a woman and occupies the protector role that traditionally belongs to men, Miller is not having it. Listen, Tim Miller, there's already been a female action hero in the Terminator movies. Sarah Connor was a great hero. But she's come back and you've made her into a grandmother. And we're supposed to respect that. And the other character, Mackenzie Davis, she looks like the traditional example of a feminazi. She has no chest and she looks more like a male than Arnold does. Because he is also an old geezer at this point. Going back into the article and looking at it further, looking at just the Terminator movies, while Grace is the first woman to be sent back to protect someone being targeted by a Terminator, obviously she's not the first woman to be incredibly useful in a fight against these cybernetic assassins. Linda Hamilton's Sarah Connor became quite the badass in Terminator 2, Judgment Day, and Emilia Clarke's version of the same character also held her own during Terminator Genisys. You broke rule number 1, Tim Miller. You don't bring up movies that have failed in the past when you're trying to promote your movie. Now, getting back to the article, it'll be interesting to see how Grace compares to Sarah, but for now, Tim Miller doesn't care at all what sexist trolls have to say about Terminator Dark Fate. With 4 months to go until the movie's release, he'll need to prepare for more of these hot takes coming down the pipeline, and plenty more after Dark Fate comes out. Well, Tim Miller, I hope you have quite the iron behind, because you're going to get quite the ribbing by every critic who's critical of your Terminator Dark Fate movie. During his interview with Variety, Tim Miller also shed some light on Grace's origins in Terminator Dark Fate, revealing that in the writer's room, novelist Joe Abercrombie came up with the idea of machine fighters in the future who are scarred, need to take a lot of drugs to deal with the pain of what's been done to them, and don't live a long time. Grace is one of the individuals who takes on this sacrificial role, and Mackenzie Davis was the actress who fit the character physically and emotionally. Oh, come on. If that response doesn't sound like arrogance and deflection, then I don't know what else does. Set 27 years after the events of Terminator 2 and ignoring the previous 3 movies, Terminator Dark Fate will see the Rev 9, a new liquid metal Terminator, trying to kill Dana Ramos, who, like John Connor before her, is important for humanity's future. Along with Grace looking after her, Dana will also be protected by Sarah Connor and an aged T-800 model. So sticking us with the fact that Terminators can now grow old. Again, that failed last time. Terminator Dark Fate tracking for soft debut will fare better than Genesis. So you say, but I have my doubts. This is the real reason Tim Miller is trying to deflect from his movie. The early box office predictions for Terminator Dark Fate are in. The long-awaited sequel to Terminator 2 Judgment Day hits theaters on November 1st, and everybody is curious to see how it will perform at the box office. Ever since the release of Judgment Day 2, the franchise has been seeing lower and lower box office debuts, matched with negative critical and fan responses. With that being said, the sequel pretends the last 3 installments never happened and brings back Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, and James Cameron. It's looking like Terminator Dark Fate will have a bit of a soft box office, opening when it hits theaters in a few weeks. Initial box office tracking as the debut weekend coming in with 35 to 45 million. This isn't a terrible number by any means, but it does mean that the international numbers are going to have to be even bigger to get up to the sequels. And this is the reason why Tim Miller is trying to deflect and attack the fans. He's trying to make enough publicity that either it's good or bad, it will hopefully bring enough people in to see his movie that it'll make some level of a profit. But that's not working anymore. It hasn't worked in years. I mean, the notion that all publicity is good publicity, even if it's bad, doesn't always work. It hasn't worked in the SJW age, where a bunch of people being called SJWs and being called racist has basically tanked movie after movie that has been made in such a agenda-driven way, because we get tired, or whether the fans get tired, including myself, of being called misogynists and racists. So your movie fails, even if you make a bunch of publicity of it. But you think that if you drive enough publicity and make a big enough noise that people will want to see your movie. Well, it isn't. A lot of the people who want to see your movie or would see your movie are fans, but the way you're treating them, it drives them away, Tim Miller, so you should stop. Terminator Dark Fate will fail. That is a given. It will fail big. They're hoping that in China that it will still make a profit because it's an action movie, and even if they're bad, action movies tend to do well over there. But it will probably fail anyway, because the Chinese also have a word for SJWs over in their own country. The phrase goes somewhere along the line of white liberal, and Chinese audiences don't like to be associated with it. So keep this up, Tim Miller. You'll tank your movie and you'll be out of job, because if you can't sell any movies anymore because you keep hyping your agendas, and you can't make any movies without including them, no one will ever give you the money again to make one. If you like this video, subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed, because YouTube is going around unsubscribing people, so make sure you're still subscribed. If you're watching my videos but you have not subscribed, just subscribe to me. Subscribe to me at YouTube at Read Comics They're Bad For You. Then go over to BitChute and subscribe to my BitChute channel, Comic Freak. Hit that bell for notifications, hit that like button, and leave some comments down below. And could you please share this video? Share it on Twitter and share it on Facebook. Share it anywhere you think it would get the most views, because YouTube is also not promoting their YouTube creators anymore. And it would really help me if you could please share this video. It's that time again where I plug for my independent comic book, Scumdogs. Keep checking back in future videos for more information on my independent comic book. And I'm Chris Williams, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another video or review.